we've had a bit of a rivalry with SP Plus rankings a little bit. I'd say so much so Bill Connolly decided to respond to some of my displeasure with them on Twitter, and that's fine. Bill Connolly is welcome to his opinion. I am welcome to mine. And then we ended the conversation by Bill Connolly saying, "Well, they are just computer numbers, aren't they?" And I thought, well, then why were we talking about this the entire time? Anyway, we won't rehash the Twitter discussion. What we will talk about is where SP Plus is projecting Big Ten offenses for this next year. Now, SP Plus does have a history of kind of putting things in similar, spots to where they were before. These offensive rankings aren't going to look all that much different than probably what they were last year. And I think year to year, we don't tend to get huge boosts. Obviously, Indiana was one of those huge boosts last year, going from not a great offense under Tom Allen to Kirk Cigneti being a top 5 offense in the Big Ten. SP Plus has Indiana as a top 5 offense again. I'm going to read them off for our podcast listeners, and then Zach, I will let you react on if there are any you feel like are too. We'll say which ones do you feel like are right first. We'll do that. So for our podcast listeners, the SP Plus rankings has Oregon 1, followed by Penn State, Ohio State, USC, Indiana, number 6, Illinois, Rutgers, Michigan, Washington, number 10, Iowa, followed by Maryland, Wisconsin, Nebraska, UCLA, Minnesota, and the bottom 3, Michigan State, Purdue, and Northwestern. Zach, what do you feel like SP Plus has correct here?
Not much.
All right. Good. What is
Well,
what
okay,
is the much?
okay. Let me be. I I think the top 6 is relatively correct. I don't think it's the right order.
Okay.
But like I have a hard time putting Oregon 1 when you don't know anything about the quarterback. You're replacing your top receiver, top tight end. Like, I don't know, that just feels like they're replacing a lot of the same pieces that Ohio State has to replace. And like Penn State doesn't have to replace anybody on offense except, well, Tyler Warren. That's a big deal. But like they have a returning quarterback. And so I'm like, I can understand you thinking Oregon could be won by the end of the season. I don't know how they could be won right now. That doesn't fly with me. I think we were talking off air. I think USC is the one that actually surprises me, though. I'm surprised that Washington is so low. Like 9th?
I think it's probably offensive line.
Yeah, that's
They
fair.
got playmakers. They got Jonah Coleman coming back, Damon Williams. He adds to the returning production there. But yeah, the offensive line doesn't have a whole lot of snaps coming in. They lost a good amount of their offensive line, and they brought some portal guys in. But that's definitely an area that they're going to try to need to address again in the portal if they have the opportunity to.
But and I get that, but Rutgers 7? That feels high.
Running game? I mean, the running game does add to the yards per play there.
But Monongai's gone.
Yeah. They must just really believe in Athan Kaliakmanis.
Yeah, well, and I think that's the thing that I'm like, I think Kaliakmanis has grown, but like the receivers, like they're okay. I don't know. Nebraska, I know Nebraska offensively has not been great, but like
Nebraska is the biggest wild card to me because, in my opinion, Nebraska could be top 5. I'm not saying they are top 5. Nebraska could be top 5, but they could also be bottom 5. Like, it's kind of a wild card in this scenario where I am not going to be able to predict Nebraska's offense next year. I'm just not going to be able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I said not much. I will say this. For an opening projection, it's not, I feel like in terms of like where exactly I would slot them, I'm like, it's not great. I think though, in general, I'm like, okay, it's not terrible. Like,
yeah, I think they got the top 3 teams
Yeah.
right. I don't know if they got the order right, but I think they
Yeah.
got the top three teams right. I think they got 4, 5, and 6 right. I don't think, again, not the right order, but I think they got that right. And then I do think Michigan is going to have the opportunity to possibly get into the top
Yeah.
6, maybe even battle for the top 5 next year. A lot of it just depends on Bryce Underwood. What is Bryce Underwood going to be? Michigan's offense really struggled last year, obviously because of the quarterback situation, the wide receiver situation, but also just a much more difficult schedule last year. We've
Hmm.
talked about it. Michigan has a more favorable schedule coming into this year. So does that help their offense a little bit more? We'll see. Time will tell. And then also, I mean, Iowa's another one that has the opportunity to be, top half, maybe even top 7, top 8 offense in the conference this year if Mark Gronowski really hits and he really turns into the
Hmm.
dude that Iowa fans are hoping he can be. If the receivers continue to develop, we know Tim Lester's going to get that offensive line right. They have offensive linemen coming back. He puts an emphasis on that, so that's going to help them a lot there.
Hmm.
So I feel pretty good about where some of these teams are, maybe just a little bit of shifting here and there. But
Yeah.
I got to be honest, my biggest gripe with it, Northwestern at 18. I do not think Northwestern will be the worst offense in the Big Ten. I think that they're going to have a running
Hmm.
game. I think Preston Stone's going to be a good quarterback for them, and I think that offensive line is like we talked in the last segment. That offensive line is going to help them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I think with that, I think my biggest struggles, there are too many teams that are wild cards that I feel like are maybe being discounted. So Joe R in the chat, he said this, I'm intrigued by MSU and Aiden Childs. I am too,
mm,
especially with Nick Marsh at receiver. And I get that their offensive line, you know, there are questions about the offensive line, questions in the running game, but I don't know, like I trust that more than UCLA. I trust that more than Maryland right now.
UCLA, I was going to bring up. We do need to talk about USC here in a second, but UCLA is
Yeah.
another one we need to bring up. Tino Sinceri coming in there. Their transfer portal wide receiver, Robinson, I think he did not get his ability to come back this next year, so that does hit their wide receiver depth. That was already a concern for me for UCLA, but Tino Sinceri, Joey Aguilar, him being able to come in there. Do they get a better running game this year? Is Deshaun Foster able to make that happen? To me, UCLA could possibly have a really good offense because of Tino Sinceri. But at the same time, I'm also on record saying that Tino Sinceri, first time offensive coordinator, he was co offensive coordinator last year at Indiana, but first time offensive coordinator, young offense for the most part. If things don't go right for UCLA, and I'm not predicting this by any means, but if things don't go right for UCLA, they could find themselves 17th or 18th in the Big Ten. And I don't
Yeah.
think that would be cause for concern about Sinceri. Like I said, it's his first year as a full-fledged offensive coordinator, right?
Yeah.
We got to give him some time.
I guess my question would be, is S&P Plus accounting for coaching? Or is it just
No, I
accounting for
don't think they do.
personnel? Because
No,
I
I don't
think
think they do.
that's because I appreciate what you're saying about Tino Sinceri, but I'm just thinking about the ranking, like just the core rankings. And I'm like, man, I don't like I see I can understand Minnesota being as low as they are, even though I trust that they will be better than that ranking by the end of the season. But they have to replace Daniel Jackson. They have to replace Brosmer. They have to replace Ariante Ursary. So like I get why they are so low. I don't know if I understand Michigan State being as low as they are. I really don't understand Nebraska. Um,
Well, again, I think that was, kind of from last year, and then, they had the coaching change, and you don't account for coaching change very much. So
yeah, that's fair.
Holgerson's going to do a better job than Satterfield did.
Yep. Yeah.
So, this is kind of a fun thought here. Who would be your bottom 3 offenses then? I think mine would be Purdue, Maryland, more Maryland hate. There you go.
You're
even
barred
know.
from Maryland hate in this
Yeah, I
episode,
know.
but that's not
I'm
really
not
hate,
trying to
but
hate them. I'm just giving my honest analysis here
yeah,
because I think they're in a tough situation with their quarterback, and the offensive line is still kind of a question. We'll see what happens there.
yeah.
Uh, Hard job for Pep Hamilton in year one as the offensive coordinator there. And then honestly, like if things don't go well because of how difficult the schedule is, you might be looking at Wisconsin down there in the bottom three too.
Yeah. Before I answer, just to clarify, AJ, these are not our rankings.
Yeah, not
This is
ours.
SP plus. SP
Yeah,
plus. So
yeah.
we had the same question about SC ahead of IU.
Well, let's talk
So
about SC now. So SP Plus has SC at fourth. Last year, USC was actually fifth when you look at yards per play. When you look at yards per game, they were second. So I mean, this was an offense last year that although they had their struggles with the offensive line and they didn't really utilize a running game that I felt like was really good, or not really good, that was better than maybe they thought it was, and they replaced their quarterback in the middle of the year. Metrically, this still finished as a top five offense in the Big Ten. Would you have categorized it as a top five offense in the Big Ten last year, Zach?
oh man, maybe. I think the problem with SC is that they were hot and cold, but B, I think they might have had the yards, but I felt like their efficiency was awful.
Mm-hmm.
And that was true, especially with Miller Moss, because they were asking him to throw like 60 times a game. So like they'd have 400 passing yards, but it's like, dude, you're averaging 6 yards an attempt. So it's hard to know how to rank SC because they're inefficient.
Right. PK says Tino was QB coach. He was QB coach and co-offensive coordinator last year. So he got that title. I think he was just QB coach at James Madison, and they gave him the co-offensive coordinator title as well. But yes, and that's another reason why you could feel good about UCLA is what he did with Curtis Rourke and everything there.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe that probably the USC belief there is just because it's Lincoln Riley, right?
Yep.
I mean, Lincoln Riley, he's always going to be able to scheme up some things on offense. Maybe it's not the most efficient thing in the world, but they're going to put up yards. We'll see if that's the same case this year. I think they're going to have to adjust to the game. They're going to have to adjust having a better defense this year, I think, with Deanch and Lynn. So I don't know if it'll be top four, but, metrically, they always seem to put up yards. They always seem to put up, stats. So we'll see. We'll see there. So some people talking about Indiana could possibly be higher than fifth. Indiana does return, some wide receivers. I think they bulked up on the offensive line, got better there as long as the offensive line stays healthy. I feel good about that situation.
Yeah.
Robin Hemby coming in from Maryland. Obviously, Fernando Mendoza. We talked about him last time. I like Indiana to be a top five offense in the Big Ten. I think when you get into ranking those, it's kind of a crapshoot a little bit, but it would not surprise me at all if Indiana has a better offense than Penn State next year. And that's with, third year starting Drew Allar and Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen there.
It's because Indiana's offense might actually be more versatile, right? You have receivers who can give you problems in Elijah Surratt. Like you have... Yeah, I think that's the biggest question mark for Penn State is who's your premier pass catcher. And I know people will say Luke Reynolds, and they're excited about is it Lane? No, not Lane. Who's the USC transfer that went over to Penn State?
Kyron Hudson.
Yeah, Hudson. Ross, the other transfer wide receiver coming in. Like, I know there's excitement, but there's been excitement about transfer wide receivers for a while now, and they have not necessarily hit every time. So I think Indiana has a chance to be more versatile. I also, Illinois is at 6. I can understand why people would have USC and Indiana, or would have SC above Illinois, but man, I know they don't bring back their receivers, but they bring back almost everybody else on that offense. And I just think Illinois is going to be really, really, really good offensively.
I just wonder if is going to let them, be that, right? Bert has a very specific way of playing ball that he likes to do. And it's one of the reasons why I told Illinois fans and after the season that Luke Altmaier is not going to win you a Heisman this year. As much as I like Luke Altmaier, and I think Luke Altmaier is a great quarterback for Illinois, it's what they need. Unfortunately, with the way that Brett Bielema has his offense run and what he expects them to do and wants them to do, he's not going to win them a Heisman this year. I think it's questionable if Illinois is going to have a top 5 offense in the Big Ten because of that. It's not because of the talent. It's not because of the offensive line. I think they're going to have a good offensive line. I think they're going to have good running backs this year. Luke Altmaier sang his praises enough times. I think they'll figure out the wide receiver position enough to get them a good offense, but they're just not one that puts up the numbers. Like they're kind of the antithesis of USC, right? USC puts up the big numbers, and so they get considered to be a top 5 offense. Illinois doesn't really try to put up the big numbers. They just go out there and try to win the game, which, I think that's what you need to do, right? You don't need to go out there and try to get a Heisman winner.
Yeah. Well, and I do think S&P Plus sometimes they will look at effectiveness over efficiencies at times. Sometimes. So it would be more about their effectiveness as an offense. And so if they're averaging 5 yards a carry and like 8 yards an attempt, but they're only throwing 20 times a game, I think that's still going to be a more effective offense than SC.
All right. You ready for top 5 offenses here?
Yep.
All right. I'll go first.
Okay.
My top 5 offenses are number 5, Michigan, number 4, Penn State, number 3, Indiana, number 2, Oregon, number 1, Ohio State.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to disrespect Penn State by saying that. I just
there
have some there are some questions. I have more questions about Penn State and their passing game and some of that stuff than I do about Indiana and the coaches they returned, some of the players they brought in, bolstering up the offensive line, some of that stuff. And sue me. I think Bryce Underwood's going to be good this year. I think he's going to have a good season. I'm not saying he's going to go out and win the Heisman or anything like that, but I don't think they paid all that money for a mid-tier quarterback, Zach. I'm just going to say it. I don't think they paid all that money for a guy to come in and just be mid.
I think it's fair.
Yeah.
You're having me question some things now about my.
Well, you just do yours. Don't think about mine. You just do yours.
Yeah.
What was your top
5? So honorable mention, Michigan and SC and Washington. Like those are my 3 on the cusp.
So those are your 5 spot a little bit.
6, 7, 8.
Okay.
Yeah, or tied for 6th. I'll say 5th. I do have Illinois. 4. I will say I'm just thinking about switching it, but I'll say Indiana 4, Penn State 3, Oregon 2, Ohio State 1.
So you believe that Penn State's going to figure out the wide receiver situation?
I just think
we're arguing little things here. I had them 3, you had them 4.
Again,
I had the Indiana 3, you had Indiana 4. Like
I think there's more sure things currently for Penn State. But I think that Indiana could easily take the number 3 and even the number 2 spot. Like I'm not like Oregon is a lot more about what I've seen over the course of years culturally. But I think like if Oregon struggles the first couple games, like I could see Indiana being 2.
Yeah.
But I just think Oregon has earned the right offensively to be a top 2 offense in the league until otherwise.
Yeah. Kinetic brings up a point here that I didn't make because I was kind of rushing through a little bit. But how do you deny Haynes and Marshall, right? We talked about this.
That's
as
a really good point.
As being a top 3 duo in the Big Ten this season with them. So, that's going to be a really strong running back duo for them if they can improve at the wide receiver spot. And I think that offensive line is going to get better. I was a little critical of, not going out and getting as much in the portal and on the offensive line. I felt like they could have done more there, brought in some more competition. But Maybe they just really believe in their guys. Maybe they just really think these guys are going to develop. They're going to get better. If anybody has an eye for offensive line talent, it's Sharon Moore. So I trust him a whole lot more to know if he needs an offensive lineman in the portal than if he needs a quarterback in the portal, right?
Do you know how much I'm kicking myself now? I
don't think Michigan's a lock at top 5 because
no, but
I mean
that's
freshman quarterback could go wrong, and Mikey Keene, if he starts, what does that look like if he struggles for 2 games and then they have to put Bryce Underwood in for him?
But how many running back duos are better than that in the like Penn State? Maybe you could make an argument. No, I don't think no, you can't make an argument for Ohio State. It's Penn State and then Michigan. Like that's
Ohio State's just not proven yet. James Peoples didn't do anything last year. And CJ Donaldson, he was a fine back at West Virginia, but he was nothing. He wasn't Haynes. He wasn't Marshall, and I realized Marshall didn't play a ton last year, but we saw him in the bowl game and he looks like a really good runner in the bowl game. He's fantastic.
I think I would switch Michigan and Illinois.
Oh, okay. All right. Switching it up now. All right. I convinced you.
Well, I was thinking about the quarterback. I kept thinking about the quarterback thing, and I'm like, I think Bryce is going to start. I don't know, like starting even really elite freshmen can be dicey at times, which, we saw at Nebraska this year, right? Like everybody was excited for Raiola.
I thought about that too, but I trust Chip Lindsey more than I trust Marcus Satterfield.
And I think that's a really good point. I think an even better point, Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall.
Right, and it's not like Nebraska had bad running backs last year. Johnson and those guys back there, they did a fine job. They're just not Marshalls and Haynes, in my opinion.
No, it's so. Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. I think the top 4 is pretty well set for next year. I mean, obviously, we'll see what happens. Like I said, if Indiana struggles with some health on the offensive line, that could impact things for them. But they stay healthy. I feel like they're probably a top 4 offense in the Big Ten again. And then you look at SC, Illinois, Michigan, Washington, a dark horse to be up there as well. That offensive line situation gets settled. And then, like I said, Nebraska's the biggest wild card, in my opinion. Could be 16th, could be 5th.
Yeah.
Everywhere. So
I can never run away from this. This is just
you're gonna have to pick against them every year this year. Philip's gonna revolt.
Illinois is gonna be the number 1 offense in the country. Luke Altmaier is gonna throw for like 5,000 yards. It's over.
Well, we're gonna have to do a better job of tracking our picks this next year. We did our picks and everything, but we didn't track.
Don't do that.
Well, I didn't say we tell anybody.
Okay.
I didn't say we tell anybody. I'm just for me and you.
Yeah.
If we do well, we'll tell people. If not, move on to the next game. All right. Let's see. I do want to point out, Zach. I won. By PK standards. PK liked my top 5 better. I didn't think we were doing a competition, but PK made it once. So PK, thank you. I will always accept a win. So,
what does the winner get?
Pride.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I humbled myself before you.